What is up, guys? This is Hanx-Saber, and finally giving you guys a Qliphort deck profile. This has been something I have been trying to do repeatedly on and off since April. And in April, I gave you guys a very, I guess I could say, lackluster Qliphort deck profile. It had all the bells and whistles at the time, but once things like Soul Transition came out, Lose One Turn, I really stopped following the archetype. And I picked up the Lose One Turns and all that stuff, and then came Turbo Towers rather. And it really just hindered me inside because I got all this stuff, and then I found out that the best version of this deck was the Turbo Towers variant. And while I did okay with the regular Qliphort variant at locals and stuff like that, making top 4, top 2 consistently, I really did not feel like playing that type of deck anymore. I really kind of wanted to play a solitaire-ish deck with Qliphort Towers being the best card in the deck. Wanted to get to that as soon as possible because I really experienced that not a lot of decks had outs to it, consistently at least. And so the fact that we can play Towers first turn is really quite nice. And so this is Turbo Towers, and this is my list for Turbo Towers. And here we go with the deck list. I am playing, of course, 2 copies of Apo Qliphort Towers. This is your God card. This is your obelisk of sorts. It is very hard to get over because it's immune to monster effects with a lower level. So basically the only monster effect in the meta right now that will get over it is Infernoid Tiara. And so that's a thing, but other than that, Towers pretty much burns out every other deck, so just be aware that probably your worst matchup is Infernoid, just because you're gaining your whole deck to making Towers, and Towers is not all that effective when they can make a first turn Tiara. So, with that in mind though, it's still very effective against every other deck, immune to spells, immune to traps. Basically, the only way to get over it is by battle, and of course every special summon monster loses 500 attack, so Burning Abyss can't even get over it, unless they have some crazy boost with the fusion with the Pilgrim, and so they have a very hard time getting over it. There's so many other decks have a tough time, so yeah. And of course, being able to making this first turn, sending your monster from your opponent's hand or field to the graveyard. If they don't have a field, they have to send from their hand. If they don't have any monsters in their hand, they have to reveal their hand. So it's like a Mind Crush right out of the gates, and it's just such a great card. So we're playing the 2 copies of Apo Qliphort Towers. Then we're playing 3 copies of Qliphort Disc. Qliphort Disc is probably my favorite Qliphort. It is just such a pretty card, and also, outside of that, being able to special summon 2 at once is quite nice, and so we put it in there for that. And then we will play 3 copies of Helix. Of course, the pop back row is nice. If you ever have to summon Scout, you can bounce it back with your own carrier, which is also quite nice. Another 3 of. And then getting into the 2 ofs, of course, restricted to 2 with Qliphort Towers. Just an amazing, Qliphort Scout rather. Scout is just a great card. Being able to get to your combo pieces, or I should say combo pieces, right away is nice, and so complete your pendulum scales. And so we play 2 copies of Scout, 2 copies of Monolith for obvious reasons. Obviously, drawing off your tributes is very strong, and the fact that if your opponent finds a way to get over Towers, and they're probably using a lot of resources to do so, you still have a lot of resources in your hand to kill them next turn. The pendulum back, search for another Towers, and then of course get your other Towers out, and then, well, if they had to beat it over by battle last turn, you're just going to make them send that monster to the graveyard with the second Tower, so then they have no outs. And so the only thing I could probably compare that to in past decks I've played is when you go first turn Boars, they have to commit to the Boars and play a lot of resources to get rid of the Boars, and then the next turn you make a King. So similar to Noble Knights in that respect, but Qliphort Monolith is so great getting your draws back. And then, of course, 2 Qliphort Stealth. Stealth is just a great card. Getting pretty much for spot removal, getting rid of things that would hinder your game state. And then for 9, we play 2 copies of Cephalopod. Cephalopod will give you life and also burn your opponent out for life. Basically, when you tribute summon it, you take the difference times, it's 300 times, the difference times 300 of monsters in your opponent's graveyard and in your graveyard, which should be 0. And, of course, or 1 if you use trade-in. But really, it will gain you a lot of advantage. It will bring your opponent out for a lot of advantage. So that's right. That's right on the money there. And so then we play 2 copies of Cleafort Shell. This is a really cool card to summon if you have towers on board. They have like pretty much no back row because you've popped it already with Helix. It's a great card to summon, and so it'll pretty much OTK your opponent right away. So that's really nice. You don't have to play the waiting game for a long time. And then finally we have 1 copy of the Cat. I was playing 2 copies of the Cat for the longest time, but then I just cut it because there was really no room in the deck anymore, and I wanted to play 1 less Pendulum. So there is 1 copy of Trampolinx. Just it's a really nice combination when you can go Pendulum, summon with Scout, bounce back your own Scout. You could at that time overlay, make an XZs, but other than that you would just activate the Scout once more, and then pay 800, search again, and then you could get the Field Spell, a Laser Cleap, and you can summon it twice, which sometimes can lead to a, you can summon Disc, special summon 2 from your deck, and then normal summon again the towers, so that's another way to make towers. So Trampolinx certainly has some utilization in the deck. So we play the 1 Trampolinx in for cute little plays like that. And then for the spells, obviously, the non-pendulum spells, we play 3 copies of Wavering Eyes. MVP in this deck by far outside of Disc and Towers, and Scout, obviously, and Monolith. But Wavering Eyes is great. It gets you to all those cards, and it also burns your opponent for 500, but the really more relevant part of that effect is that if you destroy at least 2 pendulums, you get to search 1. Now, in the mirror match, it's a little bit different, but it's a nice effect if you destroy 2 of your own. Usually when your opponent tries to MST your Scout, you always have the Wavering Eyes to counter, and you get a search off of it, get another Scout, and search again. So it's a great card, and it's basically what makes this deck go around. And then play 3 copies of Summoner's Art, obviously, still a great card. Should be hit on the next ban list, upcoming ban list, but we never know. So Summoner's Art is just a great card to roll to the deck. I play 3 copies of Upstart Goblin. 1 card I don't play, neither than I cannot afford it, but also I will not play it because it's just not that great, is Into the Void. Into the Void is just a glorified Upstart Goblin, really. It says if you have 3 cards in your deck, you can draw a card and then at the end banish your whole hand. Now, the fact about this is that you would probably have no hand to banish, and then Monolith would draw after Into the Void resolves. So I banish your whole hand, which will be 0 cards, and then you draw 3 off Monolith. That's how that works, but again, Upstart Goblin, giving your opponent 1,000 life points, it's not only that big of a deal, but also it helps you because if you activate Chicken Game, then your opponent would take no damage. And if you give your opponent more life points, then you're kind of hurting your opponent if you have Chicken Game on the field. So, I mean, it's a pretty hard explanation to argue that Upstart Goblin is better than Into the Void, but it's just as good. So, Upstart Goblin is in there, of course, for that. And then the aforementioned Chicken Game being played at 3 in this deck is really strong. So, obviously, Chicken Game being played in a lot of decks similar to Exodia, or, obviously you have Ignites and what have you. So, Chicken Game is in there for that. I say that it's probably in my majority of my deck profiles on this channel. And then to replace the Chicken Game is the Laser Cleap and 2 Terraforming. So let's talk about Laser Cleap for a second. It's really good when you could just normal summon twice, make a quick towers, and then of course 2 Terraforming to search. I feel like whenever you play Chicken Game, you should most likely play it at 3 just because you want to find more Chicken Games and activate them right away. And then I play 1 Sacrifice, 1 7 stars, and 1 trade-in to banish your disc, get 2 draws, trade in your level 8s, get 2 draws, so that's quite nice. Running out of battery, so I'm going to do the extra deck real quick. You only make 1 card in this extra deck, which is this card. It's a rank 10, overlay your 2 towers, deals 2,000 damage, it's really good. And then the rest of it is just, stuff you don't need to know. it's really not even relevant at all. I'm not even going to go into it. But in a certain situation that you can make them, it's quite nice. These are in here because you side to Cyber Dragon for the mirror match. You take their towers, fuse it, contact fuse, and that's really it. But if I would give you a side deck, I would play 3 copies of Cyber Dragon. So anyway, guys, that's a deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is Hanx-Saber signing off with the Turbo Towers deck. Give the video a thumbs up and subscribe. Become a Saber Selectioner if you haven't already done so. Thank you guys. Peace out. Peace. Don't forget to friend me on Facebook, join my group, The Titan Takeover, as well as the Ignoble Lifestyle Facebook group, and subscribe. Thank you guys. Peace.